All right. Welcome back to the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast, where we help busy dads take control of their health so that they never have to sit on the sidelines while their kids play. I'm your host, Anthony Pluff. And before we dive in, I want to first invite you to my free Facebook group. It's called Fatherhood Fitness. And every week, I go live in there answering questions from other dads. The group has almost 700 guys in it now. So it's a great place to get support, stay consistent, and surround yourself with other dads who are working to get healthier, without overhauling their entire life. And so if you're not already in the group, check the link in the show notes and hop on in there. And I'd love to see you inside. But let's go ahead and dive in to today's topic, because this is something I hear all the time. I get asked, should I focus on exercise or nutrition first? And now this is one of those questions that sounds really simple, right? But if you've ever tried to overhaul your health before, then you know how easy it is to overthink it. There's so many things going on. You start wondering, if you should start, hitting the gym, 5 days a week, go low carb. Should you track every calorie? Maybe you should do intermittent fasting. And suddenly, it feels like you have to do everything all at once. But the truth is, you don't need to do it all. And some of the things you may never have to do. And so you just need to start with the thing that's actually going to move the needle. And so I'll show you what that looks like. And so we're going to break it down. And so the step one here is going to be to ask yourself, where are the things that are most off track right now? What are the things, where in your life is this kind of showing up? And so if your nutrition is all over the place and, you're eating fast food most days, you're skipping meals, or you really just kind of have, no clue about how much you're eating, that's where you want to start, because, no workout is going to be able to undo a consistent calorie surplus here. And so what that means is that you're eating more calories than you're burning off, right? And if you've got zero structure around food, then it's almost impossible to make progress. Now, if your eating isn't perfect, but it's not a complete mess, then you're not really moving your body at all. Your energy's low and you feel stiff or weak. Then start there. Start moving. Start getting some exercise in. A lot of times for my clients, what I do is we implement a workout program, and then we slowly kind of dial in the nutrition, because the workout is something we can kind of check off the list. Right? You can wake up in the morning, you can get a workout in, you can go after work, and that is something you can check off the list. The nutrition is something that can be a little bit trickier at times, because you eat every single day, right? And it could be something that you actually can implement very quickly, because you do have practice every single day. The only way to get better is to practice. And the fact that you're eating multiple times a day, some of the habits that I work on with my clients, they have multiple opportunities each day to practice. If you're working out, you only have a few times a week to kind of implement that habit. And so nutrition sometimes could be where you start, but again, it really kind of depends on where you're at. And so you really want to just pick one thing and go all in on that. And so a lot of dads, want to do everything at once. I think it's in our DNA, right? We're trying to tackle everything. We don't like to take things slow. We want to jump right in. So, if you're trying to do, workouts, meal plan, cardio, tracking, and doing all that, but, you have that kind of that all or nothing mindset, it's usually kind of what burns people out. So instead, just pick one thing. If it could be walking every day, like awesome, like get up in the morning. You don't have to walk for an hour. You don't have to walk for half an hour. Start with 10 minutes, start with 15 minutes. It could be something simple like just prioritizing protein, right? So centering each meal around protein. So work on that. Work on focusing on, asking yourself, does this meal, like, is this centered around protein? So where's the protein? That's one question I've been teaching. I actually did a training inside my Facebook group recently on that, and that's one thing I ask my clients too. Is like every time you have a meal, no matter where you're at, the first thing you should ask is like, where's the protein there? Let's focus the meal on that, and then everything else will fall into place. And so pick the one you're most likely to stick with. Get that win from there. But before you move on to anything else, so if right now you're not moving a lot, start implementing a 10-minute walk each day. Then you can move to 15 minutes. Then you can start hitting a step goal. But you don't have to jump into all of this. You don't have to start prepping every single meal. You don't have to start tracking every single meal. You don't have to start, prioritizing protein, getting walks in, getting workouts in, because again, that's going to come into that all or nothing mindset, right? We can gradually get to where we want to go. If we kind of look at like two sides here, we've got the person you want to become and the person you are now. It's not going to change overnight, but you can start making some of those choices that align with that person, right? The person, when a lot of times when clients are, they get so frustrated because they have this outcome goal of what they want to do. They want to lose 20 pounds, they want to lose 50 pounds, they want to be able to work out. Those are all great outcome goals, but instead of asking like, what do you want to accomplish, ask yourself, who do you need to become, right? If you want to lose 50 pounds, there's a good chance you're probably not going to be able to stay the same person you are right now, right? Because who you are got you to where you are right now. And so you have to make some changes. And that's honestly why people aren't able to maintain the results, because they are the same person. You may have lost weight in the past, but gained it all back because you didn't shift your identity. You still view yourself as somebody who struggles to lose weight. And so let's start, focusing on the actions instead of the outcome. Let's focus on the actions that are actually going to lead you to become the person who's going to be able to maintain this forever. And so, success builds momentum, right? And so start seeing some of these wins, start stacking these things up. Look for the small wins, right? And so, is your energy better, right? Are your clothes fitting a little bit better? Do you have more confidence? And so when you start seeing some of these wins, when you start telling yourself, I'm going to get up and go for a 10-minute walk this morning, and you start doing that, you're going to start building that habit of keeping the promises to yourself. It's going to build that confidence, right? You're going to probably have more energy because you're starting your day with movement, and you're naturally going to start losing weight there. And so you're going to want to stack that habit on, right? And so you don't have to overhaul everything on day one. In fact, I recommend you don't do that for the reasons we talked about already, but you just need to win this week, right? Win this day, and then repeat that tomorrow, repeat that next week. And that's really how long-term change happens. And so we stack these small wins over time. Like you don't have to completely change everything. I kind of pride myself on trying to make things as simple as possible for my clients. I do my best to take away the fluff, right? There's so many things that you can do. If you go online and you're watching, well, you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, you're on TikTok, there's so much information. You have no idea where to start. And so just pick one thing and make that a habit, and then add something else. That's exactly what I do with my clients. We focus on these habits. We focus on, things like adding in protein, hitting a step goal. We focus on eating slowly, eating until satisfied, getting enough fruits and vegetables in, making sure we're getting enough fiber, all these things, but we don't focus on all of them at once. Now, they all build off of each other, but we slowly add these things in, because if we can prove to ourselves that, we can stick with something for a short while, then we can do it a little bit longer, and we can add something else, and all of a sudden we're adding something else. All of a sudden it's 3, 4, 5 months down the road, and now we have all these habits that we're putting in place. But if we try to do that on day one, it's going to be overwhelming, and you may be able to do it for a while, but there's a good chance that you're not going to be able to stick to that long term. And so if your nutrition is a mess right now, you have really no idea how much you're eating, start there. That's going to be the biggest driver of fat loss. You've probably heard, the 80-20, 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your efforts, but 80% of your results when it comes to fat loss, to weight loss, is going to come from your nutrition. And so if your nutrition right now isn't the best, go ahead and start there. But if nutrition is okay, but you're sitting down a lot, you're at a desk, you're only moving a couple thousand steps a day, then start there. Focus on movements, focus on getting that step count up each day, and then you can add in some exercises. So just pick one change right now, go all in, and then stack the next one, when you feel like you have a grasp on this. You don't have to have it all together right away. The first 2 weeks I work with a client, I always tell them, this is about making time right now, finding time, what's gonna work. And so what works right now may not work in a month from now. And that's okay. we're gonna figure it out, right? That's why I like working with clients long term, because we can go through seasons of life, right? We can go through summer, we can go through holidays, we can go through birthday parties, and we can figure out what's gonna work for you. Because I don't want you to just see results for a little while and then lose them again. That's frustrating. That's going to lead to burnout. That's going to lead to you not trusting anybody in the fitness and nutrition space, and that's not what I want for you, right? I want you to come in with an open mind. I want you to be able to see success, but when you've been burned so many times, it does make it very difficult. And so you don't need to be perfect on these things. You just got to stay consistent. And so find one thing that you can work on right now and go all in with you. And again, if this was helpful for you, you want more support, you want more guidance, or just a place to stay on track, jump into the Facebook group if you haven't already. Again, it's Fatherhood Fitness. It's totally free. I go live in there every single week with tips, answers to the questions that you have throughout the week, common topics that dads are struggling with. And so the link to that is in the show notes. And as always, if you ever have any questions or anything, all my information, Instagram, Facebook, and all that, my website is all in the show notes to the podcast. But thank you all for listening so much, and we'll catch you on the next one.